All right, today we are jumping into a really strange day for SoFi stock. I mean, on the surface, it looked like a total sleeper, but if you stuck around, a pretty wild story unfolded right before the closing bell. So here's the deal. SoFi ended the day up a solid 4%, closing at $27.10. But, that number really doesn't tell you anything. Just look at this chart. For most of the day, the stock was just flat, kind of lagging. And then, bam! In the final moment, something sent it rocketing high.
So, what on earth caused this? A super quiet day that just explodes out of nowhere at the end. And get this, there were no official announcements, no SEC filings, nothing from SoFi at all. So we're going to have to play detective here. Let's dive in and piece together the clues to solve this little puzzle.
Okay, our first clue. This one actually helps explain why the stock was dragging its feet for most of the day. And funny enough, it has less to do with SoFi itself and a lot more to do with a new heavyweight that just stepped into the ring. Word got out that the banking giant JP Morgan is now thinking about getting into crypto trading for its big institutional clients. Now, SoFi has been making a huge push into crypto for everyday users, so the idea of a competitor like that, that probably put a bit of a damper on things and explains why SoFi was trailing other fintech stocks all day.
All right, on to our second clue. For this one, we've got to look past all that market noise and actually peek inside SoFi's walls, because it looks like they were making a very strategic move completely behind the scenes.
There's this unofficial report floating around from a source known as SoFi Insider. And it suggests the company just made a pretty major talent grab. And we're not talking about one or two people here. No, they apparently hired an entire specialized team, poaching them straight from the global payments giant, Western Union. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. What does this team do? Their specialty is AML, or anti-money laundering. Look, this is not just some routine hire. When you bring in a whole team that's knee-deep in compliance and international finance rules, that is a huge tell. It strongly suggests SoFi is quietly setting the board for a major new play. But hold on, that still doesn't explain that insane spike at the end of the day. For our third and biggest clue, we have to stop looking at the news and start actually following the money. Where was it really going?
So if you just look at the raw number of trades, the day was all about high-frequency algorithmic trading. Just tons and tons of tiny transactions. But here's the thing. All those little trades, they weren't what moved the needle. That was all just noise.
The real story, the actual force behind that giant green candle you saw at the end of the day, came from a series of massive block trades. We're talking huge buys made by institutional investors, and they all happened in the last hour of trading. And this wasn't just a little bump. We are talking about serious institutional money. I mean, check this out. One single transaction came in at over $70 million. And that wasn't a one-off thing. There was another huge buy that clocked in at nearly $22 million.
And another one right after that for over $13 million. This is the kind of serious, concentrated buying power that can fundamentally move a stock price.
And this table really puts it all together. You can see these enormous buys all happening right near the close. This even includes a $10 million buy on a dark pool, which is basically a private stock exchange where big institutions can trade without tipping their hand to the public. This whole pattern just screams that big players were taking major positions, maybe rebalancing their portfolios as we get close to the end of the quarter.
So let's recap.
We've got pressure from new competitors, secret strategic hires happening in the background, and a last-minute flood of institutional cash. So what in the world does this all mean for SoFi going forward?
Okay, so where does all this craziness leave the stock? Well, from a trading standpoint, that late-day surge basically drew some new lines in the sand. The stock now has a really strong support floor around $26.63. If this momentum is going to continue, the buyers need to push it past that first wall of resistance at $27.51. After that, the next big hurdle is up at $28.05. So here's the bottom line. It was really a tale of two different trading days, wasn't it? The first half was all about outside news, that threat of competition. But the second half was driven by what looks like internal strategy and some serious big money conviction. And it's pretty clear that underneath it all, Wall Street is really starting to see SoFi as a serious player in the crypto game.
Which really leaves us with this one final thought. While the daily chart looked like pure chaos, the clues seem to point to something way more deliberate. You've got a company making quiet, strategic hires, while huge institutions are placing major bets. So the real question now is, was this just one weird day, or are we actually watching the opening moves of SoFi's next big chapter?